How to keep your team accountable without chasing them down. That's the topic we're going to be talking about today. My name's Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And what I do every day is I work with leaders and I help them be more influential and build high-performing teams. And accountability is one of those things that is really important, and it can be taking up a lot of your time. So either you're thinking you need to be doing something about accountability, or you've been trying to keep your team accountable, but it's not working and you're tired. And I get it. I get it. And accountability is one of those words every time I hear, I have like an internal like attached to it. Joining me today is Kelsey Ann. Kelsey Ann is part of my team, and she gets to live everything that we talk about on these lives. We actually experience it. I live it within my team. I live it with my clients. I live it with their teams. So Kelsey Ann knows firsthand what it's like to have these principles incorporated and practiced, not just incorporated, but practiced every day. Kelsey Ann, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm your marketing director, and I'm here. I schedule these lives so that we can talk about real issues that leaders face, and I'm here to offer the employee perspective, because as leaders, it's always, you can never assume what your employee is thinking or feeling, right? And I think at times we do.
And we all do as humans assume what others are experiencing. And the longer we are in leadership, the more disconnected we are with the work that's happening on the front lines. So it's an important perspective to consider as we're moving. All right. So what are your thoughts on accountability?
I kind of get that bleh too, right? It's just, it's sometimes, well, it's not sometimes, it's uncomfortable to sit in accountability, especially when you yourself, you know that you're not performing to your highest potential because of X, Y, or Z, because of this hiccup, that obstacle, whatever happens. And to say, yeah, I dropped ball A and ball C and ball D, and that's on me.
Yeah. So accountability is important when I measure a team's performance or organizational performance. I use something that's called the vital signs, which is a suite of tools that helps measure performance. And accountability is a pulse point. So it's one of 15 pulse points that we look at in that assessment. So just to kind of give you a visual, there's 15 pulse points, 5 drivers, 4 outcomes. So it's one of the pulse points that we look at. So it's not everything, but it is important in the driver of execution, and it affects all of our outcomes. So it's not something that we can just, because it doesn't feel good or we don't have enough time, that we can not look at or not pay attention to. So today I want to talk to you about what is accountability without you having to chase it down. So often when I hear, when I start digging into what is accountability for you, how are you keeping your team accountable? It's a lot of, I send emails to let them know that, things are overdue. There's a lot of kind of chasing down. Tell me about that task. Explain to me. And it's happening usually like just before they were about to falter or after we faltered. And often when people feel uncomfortable, that ick that we just talked about, not often, this is the rule. When we feel the ick, we avoid. Our emotions are there to tell us, hey, move away from what's uncomfortable.
Move away from the ick.
The more uncomfortable, the bigger the problem, the more uncomfortable, the more avoidance you will see. And now you're chasing down. It's like you're coming down the hall, like, tell me about this thing. You're like raging, and the person's running away from you. They're avoiding, they're not picking up the phone, they might not be answering emails. There's all these other things every time you talk to them. So there's an avoidance quality to this, and it's normal. It's normal. Their biology is telling them to avoid it. And so they are. So is this an effective strategy? So I would rather practice accountability before we falter, before we get to the icky part, before we get to the uncomfortable. So what would proactive accountability look like? Dun, 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 dun. If you're joining us today, say hi, drop your thoughts in the comment. What would proactive accountability look like? And if you have any practices around this, I'd love to hear them. What would proactive accountability look like? Kelsey Ann, what are some of the thoughts?
It could be like proactive accountability. The employee is reporting on a regular to their leader, to their manager, to keep them posted. So it's now no longer the manager chasing them down. It is now the employee coming to the manager daily, weekly, whatever that looks like, and saying, okay, this is what I've been doing, and then questions, I'm sure from there. But at least it's a good starting off point that is led by the employee.
Absolutely. Built-in accountability is what I would call that. Some kind of method, some kind of system that's in place that's creating that flow of information and that transparency. And reporting is one example of doing that. That's something that we practice in our team. So the difference, so if you can imagine this in play in a meeting, instead of me asking, tell me about this, tell me about that, tell me about blah, and going to seek the information, the reporting would look like, Kelsey Ann, it's, tell me about what's going on. And there might even be a template where there's an update, but the update and the providing the information is the responsibility. You can ask follow-up questions, and maybe something that you think was missed, then you can ask about after. But first you give the ball to the other person and you let them take responsibility for the reporting. If you are the one directing it and asking the question, then guess what? The question that you don't ask, that you forget to ask, you don't get the information on. You're doing the work. Give them the ball. And this is a practice. If you've been the one driving and asking the questions and digging for the information, it's going to take a little bit of time to transition for them to take responsibility for the reporting. So if this is something that you're like, I want to implement this, set it up, give the expectations, and practice it until they are comfortable. And know it's going to take a little bit of time. You're not just going to say, hey, you're reporting today, and they're just going to magically do it perfectly the way that you wanted to do it. It's going to be some implementation, some adjustments as you go until you get to a place that it works. All right. So built-in accountability. What else?
I'm going to say the employee focusing on like internal motivation versus external motivation. I think that helps.
Yeah. And I would, from a leadership practice, tie that in with connection points. Okay. So even though you're doing proactive accountability and they're going to be taking responsibility for themselves, you can't be completely, absent. We need to still have these connection points. Now, we're not going to have the connection points. We're not going to wait till things go wrong. We're going to have them now. Now. We're going to have them frequently, regularly, but they don't have to be long.
So in connection points, you mean like coffee breaks? Do you mean like quick conversations, or all of the above, kind of whatever that looks like?
All of the above, whatever that looks like. A quick
Okay.
connection points where you get to talk about not just the work, not just the project, but how the person is feeling about the project, what they're thinking about in the project, what they're concerned about. So it's not just, if you can think about an iceberg, we're not just going to talk about the surface stuff, but we're going to connect it to what's under the surface, the drivers and the motivation under the surface, and connect those two things together. So it's not just about, did you do this or did you do that? It's about, how are you feeling about your work? What are you thinking about your work? What are you concerned about? And really going to get a good feel for that intrinsic motivation. And making sure that the internal and the external are matching up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number 2. Not that there's a particular order, but that is a really important, having these quick, frequent connection point. Make this conversation such a normal part of how you converse about work. It's not weird. If this is something that you do all the time, it becomes just normal. And the more it's normal, the more comfortable people will be, the more they will be forthcoming with the information. And it makes a difference if you know that somebody's struggling, or somebody's concerned about, or somebody's really doesn't like doing something. That makes a difference. Anything else come to mind? You?
I think on both sides, increasing transparency so that the leader understands what tasks, you mentioned that the leader sometimes is removed from the day-to-day on the ground activities. So for them to have the transparency from the employee to say, okay, this is actually what I'm doing all day. And I'm struggling with X or whatever it is. And the leader to say, okay, well, the transparency is here. I need you to do X, Y, and Z because of whatever, right? Like get them giving the transparency of why it's important for that employee to actually do what they need them to do, and to understand the bigger business context. Because a lot of the time the leader understands, but not necessarily the employee, of how that one piece connects to not just 2 other pieces, but like a whole slew of other things.
Yeah. So giving insight into how this task or the project is impacting the bigger picture, making that connection. So the employee is not just seeing what's on their desk, but they understand how the puzzle fits together and the impact of them doing or not doing.
Yeah.
Really good one. It wasn't on my list. Third, I would talk about the communication strategy. So I think this is number 4 now. The way that we're going to have the communication. And the outcome that we're seeking through this particular communication strategy is for people to take responsibility, self-responsibility. So that at the end of the conversation, it's them picking up a ball. It's them picking up the work. It's them picking up the responsibility and saying, this is mine. I will take care of it. And there is a communication strategy that I teach my clients in order to be able to achieve this result. While you're having these conversations, if they are not at the end of the conversation saying, this is mine, like internally, not you saying this is yours, but them internally having the realization and the desire to take responsibility, right? It's not from the outside, it's from the inside. So it's about really reaching and working with that intrinsic motivation that we talked about. So not just having a tab on it, but actually working with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a big difference. Huge difference. Next is delegation of authority. If you want people to take initiative, you need to give them power to do that. And sometimes we think we've given power, but you don't know how often I will see this scenario because I work on different levels, right? I'll work with the C-suite, I'll work with managers at different levels, and I'll work with employees. I get information from the different perspectives. And what I'll see is the employee saying, I'm not using my best skills. I really want to do this, but I can't act and I feel stuck and I can't do the same. And then you'll have the leader saying, they can do it. I'm ready to give them the power to do it, but they're not doing the thing. So therefore, I don't trust they can do the thing. I'm not seeing the evidence. So both people are waiting for the other.
Mm-hmm.
So one is waiting for being given, and the other one is waiting for the other person to take it. So communication, really important here. And being very, very clear as to how much authority is given. Mm-hmm. What is going to be the leader's role in this? If you pick this up, who am I going to be to you? Mm-hmm. How am I going to support you? When are you going to report? How much authority do you have? Having this may seem weird conversation, but super important, having that clarity and not just, speaking it, but showing that you trust the person, showing that I'm not just saying this, like this is not just empty words. There is meaning here. Mm-hmm. There is intention. Yep. So delegation of authority. Don't take it for granted that employees know. Or that they believe. Maybe you've said it, but they don't believe it. I have a really, really nice worksheet on delegation of authority that my clients use and love. And it really helps create that conversation on a team level and the 5 different levels of authority, and not just the levels of authority, but who you become as a leader in relation to that level. What is your role? How do you participate? And finally, supporting systems. What are the things that you can put in place, systems that you don't have to manage, but systems that will support the person, their built-in, whatever built-in accountability that you're setting up, as well as continuing to support them and empower them to keep going. So this is really where we solidify that belief that we mean something. We can have a conversation 3 years ago, really doesn't mean anything unless we've put something in place that employees know that we mean it. Mm-hmm. This is how we're operating now. This is in place. And we're following through with that. So, for example, we talked earlier about reporting, and let's say reporting and meeting. Okay, so we can say, hey, from now on, everyone's going to do their own reporting. Here's the template. We get to the next meeting. We do it. Then the meeting after that, we kind of do it. And then the meeting after that, it's kind of fall. But it's okay because it's a weird meeting and not everyone's there and blah, 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 blah. Fourth meeting, not a thing anymore. We're not doing that. And as a leader, you might be like thinking like, oh my God, I created these templates. I went through all the trouble and look at this. Everything's just gone out the window. So what was missing in my little story?
The leader didn't necessarily delegate to the employee that this is like to kind of get things back on track.
So the consistency of the structure. This is the new structure, and we will be consistent on week 1, on week 2, on week 3, on week 4, on week 5. So we got part of the support system going because we have templates. So we've got part of it, but now we need that consistency. So that might mean for the leader holding back, not interfering with the reports, and keep it. Okay, Kelsey, and it's your turn. Go ahead. You've got the floor. Okay, you've got the floor. Okay, you've got the floor. And doing that every single time until it's not even a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we operate. All right, I'm going to go over those 6 things that we talked about for accountability. All right, proactive accountability here. I don't like cleaning up messes. I like to avoid messes in the first place. So we have built-in accountability, some kind of reporting or transparency. Second, we have connection points, quick, regular conversation where we're going deeper than the surface. Third, we're giving information to connect the work on the employee's desk with the bigger picture. Fourth, we are going to communicate, use a communication strategy where it empowers people to take self-responsibility from a place of want, not a place of have to.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to delegate authority. We're going to be very, very direct, very, very specific, and we're going to say it and mean it. And we're going to put in place the supporting systems, the systems that will keep things consistent, keep empowering, keep the transparency, keep that built-in accountability that we talked about, keep that consistent and ongoing. And this system shouldn't be something that you have to necessarily manipulate, which means it can't be like, oh, I will send emails to everyone every week to check in on them. Now you were the one doing that. So what is this? A different way of creating that communication line without you having to take that action all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So think automations, think systems, something that works for you, something that supports. I always think of it like a net that supports what we're building. That's what I see in my mind. All right. So if you are intrigued and you want to know how to do all of this, this is something that I help my clients build up. because I don't want them to have to chase down accountability. They've got other things going on. We don't have time for that. Your to-do list is long, and I get it. We don't want to add keeping people accountable on that to-do list or cleaning up messes on that to-do list. None of that. There is an opportunity right now to work with me, and this will be the last opportunity this year. And today is the day to take action on that opportunity. So today is the last day to apply to work with me inside the Executive Edge program. So this is an 8-week leadership development program that helps leaders build their influence, enhance their communication with these communication strategies, and build a better, thriving culture. Have an impact. And Kelsey, what do you want to share about this opportunity?
I want to share that, well, we posted earlier about Tammy, like this is from the leaders. It's unlike anything that they've ever experienced. So most of the leaders that have gone through the program, they come with loads of experience, but it's about tweaking and customizing their experience with your strategies. And it's just minor tweaks for a lot of them. It's because they come with all of this knowledge. So it's really exciting to see their scores, right? Because you assess them at the beginning, you assess them at the end, so they can see throughout those eight weeks the difference and how they've grown as a leader. Because you work with rockstar leaders. They're amazing, amazing leaders that have people at the forefront. They want to do good work, and they want to do better work, and they want to be that better leader.
Yeah. And those small tweaks make a big difference. And we're shifting our whole view of leadership, our approach to leadership, which makes it a lot more enjoyable. I had a message just last night from one of the people inside the program saying how she's enjoying her job again. She's like, I like this new approach to leadership. I'm reconnecting and I'm feeling more joyful and going to work every day. This works. Another client talked about how it was kind of an anti-inflammatory. I always remember that comment, right? Just taking away those things that irritate you, those reactions, those internal reactions. You may not be acting them out, but there's an internal reaction, and there's an experience there that you don't need to be having. We can take that away. And that's a wonderful place to be, to have a lot less burden on your shoulders internally, but also a lot less work externally. To get the outcomes that you're seeking. So what that looks like is we start with doing an assessment. So one of the things that, if you haven't worked with me yet, you'll quickly learn that I like to be very precise. I am not going to waste my time or your time on things that are not relevant to you. So we're going to do a full assessment, and we're going to pair that up with a coaching session. So we can look at exactly what is going on for you. What are those strengths that we can leverage? What are those areas that could use some tweaking? And what are the areas that could use some building up? Okay, and we're going to be very precise where you could invest your attention to get the biggest ROI. Then we have 6 training sessions. Okay, so it's training and coaching. I'm always a coach first. So it's very experiential. There's a lot of activities, discussions, breakouts, on the spot coaching, and it's a small group. So I'm talking somewhere between 3, 4 to up to 6 people. 6 is the max. I don't take more than 6. I like small groups because I'm so hands-on, because this is a personalized experience. So I vet everyone that applies, and I make sure that they are the right people to be sitting at the table with you, and that it's going to allow for maximum learning. I love every group that I work with. Like every group, it's like, I love this group. So many great people, so many great perspectives, so much experience, so much knowledge. So having those interactions, even not just having a coach that you see every week live, by the way, not pre-recorded, not we are going to talk every week. You get to also talk with other people who are experiencing similar challenges, who are working through some of the same things. And there's a lot of power in that group. There's a ton of power. While we're going through these group sessions, you have access to a direct line to me. So anything that you're not comfortable, or anything that above and beyond what's happening in the group, you get access to me behind the scenes. And the people who take advantage of that get a lot in those 8 weeks. They get continuous coaching, even in between sessions. And then we finish it with another assessment. So you can see your before and after. And believe me, you want to see it. It is satisfying. And there are shifts that you can kind of notice. There's some shifts that you see on the outside. There's, the lived experience. And then to see it black and white, it making sense, like this is how I changed to get these results. Like there's something so satisfying in that.
And that definitely goes a lot further than, hey, my team is coming and they're saying they're noticing I'm doing things a little different. They don't know exactly what. And we've heard that from the leaders that have gone through the program, like week 2, week 3, my team is responding differently. Things aren't as hard as they used to be. They notice something different. They just don't know exactly what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so at the end, we finish off with another one-on-one coaching session. So as you notice, there's one-on-one and there's group, because I like the blended approach. I try to get the best of all worlds baked into this program. And then you'll walk away with a certificate, your new skills, and a lot more ease.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key points to also mention is that this is not a one size fit all. You know that every single team is unique, each leader is unique, and that you're giving them this customized strategy to them. That you're looking at, the coaching and the assessment, and you're really saying, okay, you're doing these really well, and then, we're going to focus on this. And you really help them get laser focused. And I think that customized strategy, it's not everybody is encouraged to do the same thing and lead the same way, because everybody's unique and everybody's team's completely unique.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Different industries, different dynamics, different cultures. It's all relevant. It's all relevant. So I really get irked with the one size fits all, or this is all the same problem.
Right.
Well, it can look like the same problem on the surface. Once you start digging into it, once you do a causal layer analysis, you will find very different things underneath the surface. Very different drivers. So this is the time, if you want to start the new year with a lot more ease. 2024 is going to be better, easier, less burdensome, more joyful, enjoying your team, enjoying the work. This is the time. Today's the day to send your application. Now, application's very easy. All you need to do is book a call. There's 2 different ways you can do that. You can click on the link that Kelsey-Ann is going to drop below. That's going to give you access to my calendar and find a slot. So I have options for Thursday and Friday, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, because we're Wednesday. Exactly. And then we're just going to chat. So booking a call doesn't mean you're in. It means we're going to chat. We're going to see if it's a good fit for you. And the second way is to send me a DM. So if you are not seeing the dates that works for you in the calendar on the link, just send me a DM and we'll find something that works. We'll make it happen. All right. So all you need to do is just take action today. Do one small step today and we'll get it rolling. We start at the end of the month and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.